Just so you know, as we're going through the presentation, some of the questions that have been posted in the question and answer spot, some of those questions we will go over in the presentation, but we'll work on answering all those questions throughout the presentation in case they're more specific than what we're going to cover in the presentation.
Okay, I think we can get started. We'll let everybody kind of pop in as they go. So I'd like to also introduce the people on with me tonight. So Julie Katz, you just heard, she is a counselor at Richards. Allie Foley is a counselor at Eisenhower, and we are trying to get on the career coordinator for the district. Her name is Sarah O'Brien. So she might pop on here someplace. But as Julie said, we are going to be answering questions through the chat. So we'll try to get to as many as possible as we go along. Things I'd like to again welcome. Thank you so much. This is the first time we've done this, so somebody might have seen me trying to figure out how to put myself on the computer again after so long away from Zoom in my own home. So pardon that. Um, what I'd like to go through a little bit is, so we have a pretty, I don't know, semi-lengthy presentation, I suppose. The link for the presentation will be on our each individual website at the end of this, probably within, hopefully by the end of the week. So if you go to your school, your homeschool link, it will be under parents, and then you will click incoming freshmen. That's where I think I'm going to have them put it because it just makes the most sense. So after the end of the presentation too, there are a bunch of information pieces that talk about who you can contact. Somebody was worried about tech, we can get that for you too, but the registrar and the parent liaison in case you ever have any questions. So those are all at the end of the presentation. We will be moving through this and stopping after every few slides just to make sure we are getting the questions answered that you need us to answer. I do encourage you to try to share this information. You know, if you're on, we have about 128 people right now. If you know any of your junior high other parents that you can make sure that they get on in case they had a hard time finding the link. We were having some difficulty putting a Zoom link together on the flyer. So if you can pass on any information or tell them, you know, about the link, that would be wonderful. I want to make sure we get as much information as possible before you all show next week to pick classes for your children. So let me share my screen. And if you ladies think of anything else I'm missing, please feel free to obviously jump right in. So, okay. So welcome all. What we're going to be doing this evening is navigating this process for you. We were unable this year to have the eighth graders into our school due to some construction and other issues. So I kind of wanted to make sure that we at least tried to answer as many questions as possible to, again, get you to maybe tell the rest of the parents that you know kind of what's going on and see if we can get some things done before you guys come in. So the presentation today aims to provide a guide for you to be able to understand the steps on how to register your student and what that means, highlighting important deadlines and details that we feel like you should know, and offering tips for making informed choices. So let's get through this and see what we can do. Okay, so everyone, your course selection night is as follows. Shepherd is going to be the 14th from 5:30 to 7:30. Richards will be also the same. And Eisenhower, I think you are till 7. Is that right, Allie?
I believe 5:30 to 7:30.
Oh, so they changed yours too then. Okay, great. So everybody's 5:30 to 7:30 on the same day. So please mark your calendars for that. Registration, as we go along, will open in July. So when you pick the classes and things that will happen on the 14th, then you will be able to pay for anything, register with your families and do all the important things in July. So the registration people are at the end of this PowerPoint, so you can contact them if you have any questions. And this is when the hours are, so everything will be opened about that time. So once you do things on January 14th, you won't need to do a whole lot of anything else, at least until July, or we have a date where you can call us and ask questions and maybe change courses if we have them available sometime during May. So basically, January is the most important piece right now. Okay, what I'd like to do is show everybody that you have a link on your own homeschool website to walk you through some things that I think would be very beneficial, excuse me, for you to read. So I'm going to click on this little link. Okay, so when you get on the website, it's going to be under parents on your own school site, sorry, because it doesn't seem to be on the district site. So if you go to say Shepherd, Richards, or Eisenhower and click under parents, and then it'll say incoming freshmen, you will see this. Okay, each of you have a school that you can click on. So since I'm doing this right now, I'll just click on Shepherd. There's a welcome packet for each individual school in multiple languages. Okay, this introduces you to the assistant superintendent that's in charge of community engagement. So it'll go kind of give you through steps, 8th grade teacher recommendations that are being made currently, any kind of student requests, course selection, and then registration. Okay, so you can read a little bit of this yourself, but so it tells you what the steps should be into finalizing the course selection process. I'm hoping they told us that everybody received some emails and some information about how to hop on to be able to do this. I will click on what I need to in a moment just to show you what the selection process is supposed to look like, but I'm hoping everybody got that somewhere in an email or in the mail. What we are hoping for you to do is to be able to work with your student in thinking about classes that they're choosing, also to figure out who they are as individuals. What kinds of classes would go with who they, like their interests and descriptions and skills that they might have, okay? So what this piece of information essentially does is students who are doers, okay, who like to maybe work with their hands, those information, they kind of try to break it down for you in our course selection guide so you knew what pages were in the book. Okay, so it has each one, the persuader, the organizer. So this is a kind of student that you might have who might like certain classes that we offer. Okay, so this is how they've broken it up. So here are your preferences. You'll see this twice, once in this particular piece, and then I have one on the slide as well, that tells you all the classes that we are offering for freshmen. Okay, so each class, an introduction to family and consumer science class, would help a student who likes to be a creator, a helper, or a persuader. Those are their skills and interests. So if you look through this as you go along, when you can click on it yourself, you can kind of see we've broken it all down into which is which for you guys, okay? Anything that you can see, which is a little bit difficult, but it has an asterisk next to it, is a class we offer that's dual credit, which means they can take it at Shepherd, but get Moraine Valley or maybe another college credit for it. We will go into that a little bit as we go along. Okay, the career and technical education information. So we have different departments and different classes that these students can take. So this kind of explains a little bit about our CTE program. Some business classes, some technology classes, and then your family and consumer science and ROTC. Okay, here's a 4-year plan. So there's an example of what your students can take over 4 years while they're at Shepherd, Eisenhower, or Richards. Please understand that classes that might be on here or that things that you might see will differ probably from school to school as far as an offering goes. But at least wanted you to know where that was. And then I want to go back to, here we go. Okay, so the way to also help your students, and I just want to plug this really quickly because I think this is important. When they came to do step-up days with us, we had them do an interest inventory. You have them in multiple languages, okay? So here's the guide that we've put together in the last couple of years that has everything there could possibly be to offer and how to work with that information based on your student. So if you jumped in here with the student and you went to page 6 and 7, each of these categories has little questions that talks about your student. Does your student like to fix mechanical things? Do they like to create photographs? So each one has a different set of check marks. Please work with your student to get an idea of what exactly they like to do. Then when you go back and you look at what I showed you with regard to the freshman classes that can be taken, this is how you can help yourselves and your students figure out what classes would be good for them. Because while they're in high school, they're trying to build a resume, learning who they are, what they're trying to do. Okay, so I just wanted to show a little bit of that. The book itself is fabulous. So if you had time to look at that at some point with your student, it would be a great asset. Okay, course placement.
All
Julie,
right.
I think this is you, right?
Yes.
Okay, go.
So all of that information that Sherry had talked about is available online. A lot of, again, the information we're going to go over tonight, it may feel a little bit repetitive, but we know that you're getting a lot of information, so we want to just make sure that you're getting as much of it as you can. Um, and there's been some questions in the chat in there about selecting classes and login information and things like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and then a little bit more about specific classes and stuff. So as students are coming in for their freshman year, as they do with all of the other years as well, but they're going to be picking out their course requests. So they are selecting the classes that they would like to take, and we're looking for information from those students on those electives that they want to take, and then the course subjects like their English, math, science, social studies. Those placements are typically based off of test scores or from the teacher recommendation. So your students' eighth grade teachers are making recommendations as well. And then there's a new law about accelerated placement. So if a student scored at a specific level from their MAP scores or whatever their standardized test scores that they had taken, then by law, we have to place them into an honors level or AP level course. It requires parent permission if you guys would like to choose for them to not be in that honors class. So there was a letter that was sent out about that as well. I know that there had been some questions about it on how that worked exactly. And so that is a new law that we're all navigating as well. So if you do have questions about it, just to reach out to your child's counselor if you had any questions on that letter. So to the right here, it shows basically it gives you an outline of the classes that the students are going to be taking. So they have English, they have geography, their biology, their algebra class, and then they're going to take PE or they're going to take ROTC. And then that PE class is a health and PE class combined called Connecting to Wellness. I think there you go. And then there gives space for two electives on their schedule. So one of the pieces of information that had been sent out is giving you steps about how to select electives and put in those course requests through Skyward. There's a few questions in the chat about login information. I did reach out to one of the tech people, and they said that Skyward login information has been emailed to you for your login and password information. So if you haven't received that yet, maybe check in like your spam or junk email in case it got filtered into there by accident. If you still have not received it, then you would need to reach out to the school's tech department, and then they would be able to give you your login information. Unfortunately, the counselors, we do not have access to that information. So on this their student elective course selection sheet, Sherry, if you will click on that, and then it's gonna, yeah. So this is the information that was sent out. We do have a new platform of Skyward that we're using this year. So if you had other students, this process is going to be a little bit different for you. The window to select those classes is available now. It's open for students to start doing that for the freshmen or the incoming freshmen. So if you have that login information, you can log into Skyward, and then there'll be a tile on the screen that says course requests for next school year, and you just select your correct to select that one, and then you'll click on My Requests. And again, all of this information is has been sent out, and it will continue to be available on our website and in the video. So when you are selecting the requests, there'll be already a list of classes that are available for electives for students. It's already selected so that it's only classes that are available for freshmen. So you don't have to worry on whether or not they're allowed to take it or not. That is available. Those are all the classes that are available for freshmen. You just click on the green plus sign in order to add it and then make sure that you save them. We did receive some phone calls today from parents who had been working on this and they ran out of slots. So they are adding additional slots for students to make sure that you can get all of the electives that you wanted in there, in addition to the Connecting to Wellness and lunch classes that are preloaded on there. So we did have some questions on that, and they were addressing that today. So if you have previously logged in to add those requests and you did not have enough space on there to add them, we understand, we're working on it, and it should be, I think it's fixed today. If not, give it maybe a day or two, and then it should be working. So you just hit that plus sign, and then if you'll scroll down, there you go. So then you'll just, they'll save the requests. And if they need to delete it, they hit the red circle to delete it. The other thing on there is the alternates. This is really, really helpful for us as counselors because as students put their requests in, sometimes just the way that the schedule works, we may not be able to get students into all of the classes that they wanted. Maybe they, had just single semester classes and they both ran first semester, so we couldn't put them in it. It can vary depending on how the schedule is created. And so when students put in those alternates, it gives us a better idea of what classes they want to take in case we can't get them into their first choice. Of course, that's the first step, is to get those first choices in. But if it doesn't work out that way, having those alternates are helpful so that we know the other things that the students would like to take, instead of having to try to reach out to you guys or go back and forth or end up having to put them in a class that they're not necessarily interested in. So it's really, really helpful for us as counselors to have those alternates. And then just make sure that you always save your requests in there. So those are the steps about adding the courses, the course requests in Skyward. And then if we go back to the PowerPoint or slideshow, there we go. So we're going to go through, and as Sherry had shown in the other, it's in the other packet, but these are all the elective choices available for freshmen. Again, they have 2 full year spaces for the classes. All of these provide just a short description of what the class is about, and it has those at the end in bold, like the creator, the helper, just in case you need some help trying to figure out what are maybe some good classes for my student. And then another thing to keep in mind, for example, on the to the left where it has the number and the name of the class, it'll have the course number is for our coding purposes, but then the F afterwards means that it is a full year course, and the S means it's a semester course. So if a student is filling those 2 elective slots, they either need 2 full year courses or they need 4 semester courses, or 1 full year and 2 semester courses. So that's kind of how the numbers work out with that. Again, if if they have a different combination, we will make that work. That's where those alternates come in. Another thing to point out, as it was mentioned earlier, those asterisks are to show for the dual credit classes. And then also just at the end of, like for example, the personal auto care there on the first line, at the end, it says ABS and HLR only. So there are a few classes that are not offered district-wide, whether that's for space reasons or staffing purposes, whatever. There may be some classes that are only offered at specific buildings. So if there's a class that you're looking through and you see and you want your students to take it or they're interested in it and you're not seeing it in Skyward to put in a request, that may be one of the reasons. So that's something to kind of look at as well. So again, this is just that information about the the different personality traits that will link to some of those classes. On here, it shows a variety of classes. Some of these are available to upperclassmen, so your freshmen may not be able to, but they may start thinking about these are classes that I want to take in the future. The dual credit classes on these pages are underlined, and then the classes that are available to freshmen are italicized. So again, it's just a different visual to have that information to help you navigate all of the classes in case you're having difficulty picking out those classes. And then this is another visual. Again, it has a lot of different classes, but sometimes students have an idea of kind of what they want to go into in the future, whether that is into education or into architecture and construction or science or the STEM fields or health sciences. This gives just an idea of if you had a career cluster that you're interested in, it gives you an idea of maybe some classes that might be helpful in that field. So again, this has all of the classes, not just freshman classes, but just to give kind of some ideas of things to think about for the future as well.
Should we explain what a career cluster is so they kind of understand why we did all of this? Do you want me to
Sure.
do that?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
just so you all know, I'm one of the sophomore advisory teachers, and in sophomore year of your children's schedule, we are brought in to talk to your students about what are called career clusters. And I know they've just changed the amount, but there were 16 of them at one point, and I think they've made that a little bit shorter. But everything you see currently on your screen is a cluster that has a bunch of different careers under the cluster. So as you go along with your students, some of this, you can talk to your counselor about. Some of this they will hear in class. But if you knew, like some kids are really, they've known what they've wanted to do for most of their lives. I have some kids who've always wanted to do, they want to be a nurse. Well, then you would at least know that you could go into the health science portion of this, and it would tell you the classes or the programs that we offer in the health sciences. Now, that doesn't mean they can't take anything else, but the mission of these particular sheets were to to me, if I have too much information and I can't pigeonhole myself to look at certain things in some kind of a structured fashion, sometimes it makes it harder. And so for the kids that we work with, we wanted to make sheets that look like, hey, if you know what you want to do, or you know who you are as a person and you know some of your skills, here are the classes that you can take that would just make sense. And then they would know, here's what I'm choosing each year, and they could map out 4 years. So hopefully that kind of helps, because I we're doing a lot of things that look a little more confusing. But once you go along and you talk to your kids or you talk to us, it becomes just a little bit easier to kind of see what we offer and in what category we offer it. Sorry, Julie, just wanted to jump in for 2 seconds.
Perfect. And the career guide that had the assessment for students to take about the doer thinker, that survey, there's additional information about all the career clusters in there as well, and the district courses that align with it too. So again, this was also a page that was in the packet earlier, but just gives a better idea on the career and technical education department. Maybe if your student is interested in any of these fields, there's certain classes and departments that can provide them with a little bit more information and maybe of interest for them. So again, just another way to provide that information about different classes and departments. These give a little bit more detail on the courses, like a little bit longer description than the other pages. But they're the same classes as well.
Julie, let's just stop for 1 second with this so we can kind of get a couple of questions, because I'm starting to see that there's some things that we need to answer.
Okay.
Do you know for a fact? So I think you said it, but there was a question about, can we change a course once a selection has been saved? Isn't there a delete button on what they see?
There is, yeah.
Right?
When you're looking at your course selection that you've added, there is a red like delete button that would be able to remove that course request and then you just have to make sure you save again after you've made that change. Mhm.
Okay. Allie and Sarah, why don't you jump in on a couple of other ones? What else are you seeing that you feel like needs to be answered? Uh-oh, where'd they go?
Sorry. So, yeah, that was one that I was looking at. And then what was another one? So then that answers, what if I make a change to an elective that was picked? That answers that.
You asked how many
Then-
electives should they select?
Yeah, so they were asking then too, are they only putting in 2 electives and 1 alternate class?
Yes, right, Julie? That's all they should be doing.
Yeah, I believe they can put more than one alternate in there. It really helps us just when those alternates are in there in case we can't fit that in the schedule. So as far as when their actual schedule is created, they'll have 2 electives. And then so this whole idea is just to, because we're not having the students directly in front of us when the scheduling is actually happening, this just helps us have that information on what they would want to take so we can better schedule them for the future.
Yeah, and I think there was one more thing. So I think there's some confusion about should they be selecting the courses now or do they need to wait till the 14th? Can you offer clarification on that?
Yeah, so it's open now. It opened on January 6th, and the freshman courses have to be done by the 13th. Is that right? I believe that's on one
The
of the
13th, yes, the
yeah,
13th
the
at
slides.
11:59, yes.
Yes, so they will be entered in there so they can work on all of that stuff now to get everything done in advance. Um,
I
the
wouldn't, I was sorry, I wouldn't like, I just want everybody to know, you don't have to panic about trying to get it in. It's just helping us kind of get everything together. And then if you still have questions and you're coming to the parent night for registration, we can then proceed to answer either more questions or work on changing things if necessary, right, Julie? I mean,
Mhm.
we want you to do it ahead of time so you have the structure done. But again, you have a moment where, and you can also call the counselor. You can do both. So get what you can done, work on what you can. You all should have gotten sheets home too, I think, that you could bring with you that night that have all the things that you are choosing. And, then we can go over them with you when you meet with us. So
I also say, I believe another goal of this is for parents that can't make it or guardians
yes.
that can't make it that night. This allows you guys just to kind of input everything,
Yes.
virtually or electronically.
I have a person with a hand raised. Can you guys see that and figure out how to?
Yeah, I think the attendees are all set to be muted. We're just going to be using the chat part for right now for questions, just because there's so many participants and it's difficult to manage that with
Okay.
speaking.
Okay.
But the other thing I was going to mention too is I've had other questions in the past as far as putting in these requests where both students and parents had the same thought that it was like a first come, first serve. So if I put my course request in, then I'm at the top of the list in order to get into that class. And that's not the way that it works. So these course requests are going in so we know what classes students want to take, and then they work on creating the schedule based off of that. So although there's no guarantee that they'll be able to get into all of those classes 100% of the time, but ideally they're able to get into most of those classes. Just can't always control that.
Mhm.
Um,
A few more questions, Allie and Sarah.
more before,
Sorry, I'm still answering probably way too long of an answer on this one about honors and AP courses. But yeah, the other ones I'm seeing are just a lot about, yeah, choosing the electives. And again, I know on the back end and admin, they're working to kind of make sure that you guys have more. Some parents are saying that they're not obviously able to put in enough. So again, yeah, I want to urge you that if it's not in tonight, we literally have like until, we've got like a month to get all of this in before things really start to roll over. So this
Right.
is really just trying to give you guys the opportunity to get ahead of it. Especially, if you are not able to attend the night on the 14th, and even then, reach out to your counselor. We can change things like this, don't worry if this isn't working right now. We know we're trying to figure out with this new system as well.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, Julie, want to continue on then? Or is it me?
Sure. No, I'll keep
I
going.
didn't count the slides, so just let me know when I'm back on again.
Okay. So just another point of reference for the CTE department. That's the business department, the family and consumer sciences, and then the technology and engineering education. This lists a variety of classes that students can take later on, but just wanted to point out that we have a lot of sequenced classes. So for example, like the drafting and CAD program. So it's the first class is an intro to engineering. So that is just an introductory course for engineering. It's a single semester class, and students may think that they want to go into engineering, or they don't know enough about it and they haven't made a decision, but they take that class to learn a little bit more about it. If they like it, then they continue on in the sequence for the next school year and take a full year of drafting CAD 2, which is dual credit, and then they can take the next year of drafting CAD 3, which is also dual credit. So those are classes that link together a lot in the CTE world, that have all of these introductory level courses. And that's what we want students to do in high school, to expose them to different careers and different information, different ways of learning. So taking those introductory courses is a great way for them to learn just a little bit more about those fields, and to see if that's something of interest for them. Typically, those introductory courses are only a single semester. And then if they like it, they can continue on with it, and do some of those dual credit classes, as they get higher up in that sequencing. So just something to kind of point out. One of the other options that students have is for ROTC. So as I said earlier, students in freshman year, they take Connecting to Wellness, which is part health and part PE for the full school year. And students are required to have 6 semesters of PE for graduation. However, students can choose to take the ROTC program instead of doing PE. If they chose that and they chose not to be in the Connecting to Wellness class, then they do have to make up that health half credit later on in like their sophomore year. ROTC is a leadership program. There is no military commitment, but it is linked with a different branch of the military. So Eisenhower has the Marine Corps, Shepherd has Air Force, and Richards has the Navy. So students just learn different leadership skills, self-discipline. It's about being a responsible citizen. They do a lot of physical fitness and health stuff. They do drills in the ceremonies and things like that. So it's a really great program for leadership. And again, there is no military commitment for it, but that is an option for students if they're interested. And then there's additional information on the website for that as well. So a couple things like we were just talking about, trying to get those course requests in by midnight, or 11:59 on January 13th. And as we had said, if you don't get it in, reach out, or if you're coming to the January 14th night, which is the open house, there was one of the questions in the chat asking about what that is. For those, I can only speak for Richards, but the way that it's run is there's information about the different classes and the departments and stuff. And then you would sit down with a counselor, not necessarily your counselor that will be assigned to you, but just to be able to put in those course requests in person, or if you had any questions. There's also been some questions about like the math placement, if your student is currently in an honors algebra program right now, and if they can go straight into honors geometry. We typically get a list of students that were approved for that, or if you had a question about it, the math department chairs or our administrators would be able to address some of those questions on the 14th as well. So that is for the course requests. And then in May, when we can get tentative schedules for students, they may be asking about making some changes and things like that. So we try to really put a lot of emphasis on the courses that the students are selecting when they're doing this course request now. A lot of time goes into it, and we can't guarantee that students are going to get into those classes if they make those changes later. And so we just really want students to take this seriously and really request their ideal classes, but we understand that some things may change or there could be issues. So reaching out in May if there's any changes. And then lastly, just to give you a whole picture of what they're going to be looking at, we require 23.5 credits for graduation, and that has a list of all of the requirements for the different departments. Now, with all of this information, we don't expect you to have all of the answers and to have it all memorized and to know everything. So that is our role as counselors, is to make sure that your students are assigned in the right classes, that they're getting what they need for graduation, and monitoring all of that. that. So that is our role, and we will we're here in order to guide you with that. But just know you don't have to have all of this stuff memorized. That's what we're here for, to help you with it.
Okay, do you want me to jump back in?
Do you guys mind if I'm seeing some,
Yeah.
I started to answer a few questions
Oh, yeah,
on
do it again, yeah.
like the semester versus full year electives. I've been answering, so not totally paying attention. Did we cover that yet? Or do we plan to?
I did mention it, but just as
Okay.
a
Yeah, so just to
reminder.
reiterate, so your freshman next year will have like kind of like 2 full slots for electives. So if you're picking, for example, one of these questions says, if they're choosing, prep band, that's actually a full year class. So it's automatically going to put in semester 1 and semester 2. You still have room for one other like full 1.0 elective. So for example, then if you're choosing, say drafting and CAD, that is a 0.5, a semester long class. You're going to also then need to find another 0.5 semester long class to kind of pair with it, like intro to tech or something. So yes, it's kind of like 2 full credits, 2.0 credits, but there are 0.5s within that. And so that's also another reason why we like those alternative backup options, because especially with those semester classes, we always want kind of like a second choice. If like the first 2 choices don't fit, we'll put in like that third one, basically.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. What else are you seeing?
I'm seeing a couple questions about parents are asking if they should be bringing their students on the registration night. And I say, yes, definitely. It's a great opportunity. If possible, they should definitely be there so that they can meet with their counselor and have those conversations and just get familiar with the school as well.
I've seen a few questions in here asking if, if it's done, if you guys are able to put in the course requests online, do you have to come on the 14th? And you do not. To be there on the 14th is if you maybe were having trouble getting those course requests entered, or you have questions, or you wanted to speak to somebody directly about those things. Just with the technology that we have now, a lot of it is done in advance online. So you do not have to, but it is available, and also a great time for the students to see the building. But that is an option. And also a question about placement in AP or honors classes. But if you would prefer your child to be in general education classes, you just need to reach out to the counselor if you would like to have your student in general education instead of in AP or honors classes. And that can be based off of one specific subject. If you feel if your student was placed accelerated placement for English, math, science, social studies, but maybe they struggle a little bit more with math. And so the other classes you'd like the honors, but math you would like to be in the general class, that is fine as well. You just reach out to the counselor about making those changes.
Okay. Should we move on? Do you guys have a couple of other things that you're seeing in the chat?
One thing that I think is probably easier for me to explain than type in here. So just to clarify, so it closes kind of on your parent end to enter your course request for your student on the 13th, and then the 14th is the night of incoming freshman night to come in and actually sit down with your counselor. So the reason it closes for the parent side kind of the night before is so that then if you guys come the next night and we kind of make choices with you guys and choose the electives and things, and that's kind of like more or less set, we don't want parents to be able to go back in and like make changes, and then things get kind of all jumbled up. So on our side as counselors, we can kind of make these changes whenever, but we kind of close it for parents and students on certain times so that things are set and don't add in additional courses and mess with the classes and things. Correct, Sherry?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we can always make changes as counselors past the 14th, 15th. We've got time.
Correct.
If things
Yes.
aren't done, or your student changes their mind after they meet with us, we just can't keep it open on the parent and student side all the time.
And again, so we have until probably what is it, the 6th, I think, of February. before everything shuts down, even for us. So anything after February, right? That was the date they gave us, February 6th, I believe. So after February 6th, everyone, you will not be able to make any changes or ask us any of those. You can ask us questions, but we can't do any changes then until things open back up in May. And that again, just it is determined by, do we have the class that your student would want to switch to? Everything we do is based on your students' choices. So if they pick a production class and then they decide they want an electricity class and we don't have it, there's nothing we can do with that. So we are based on whatever they choose. That's what is allotted for them. So that's why we don't do a lot of this changing. Once we get into classes in August, there is no changing. There's only fixing of a schedule if there's something wrong with it. If maybe we miss something as counselors, but we're not going to be able to make all these changes. So please make sure your children understand that once it is set, it is set, and we can't just be moving things back and forth. If it's open, we can certainly entertain it, but if it's not, there's not much we can do about it. So, okay, so let's move on just a little bit and then we will take some more questions here shortly. So what you see on your screen currently are just some things that I wanted to put together to hit a bunch of different little topics for you guys so you know. So I want everybody to know that freshman grades do matter. This is what we build upon. So the freshman year is very important. Everything they're doing, the grades they're trying to achieve, if things don't necessarily go well freshman year, it's a little bit harder to move the GPA where it needs to be. We like to see progress for sure, but we want them to come in and understand that freshman year is important, but is also, a really big adjustment. Failed classes have to be retaken or made up depending on what they are. Mostly core classes, which is your English, your social studies, your science, and your math, those especially have to be made up. So you want to make sure that you and your student understand what is required to graduate. We do offer summer school. So we want to make sure that they understand that the more they fail, the more things they have to redo. Okay. And as it shows you, 85% of the grade is based on what you learn and 15% is on the homework. So you have to do the things in order to get the grades for the tests and to get the grade from the class. Okay. As we've talked about already, your elective choices are based on interests. So you want the kids to make sure that if they like something and they want to know about something, those are the classes they should be putting themselves into. Okay. Just little things that they need to know. There are 5 minutes between each class. All students get iPads for each one. There are 7 counselors-ish at every building, right? I think, right? I don't even know if I think that's true.
We have 8.
I think that's everybody though, right?
We have 8.
And you have 8. Oh yeah, because you have an extra one. There's at least 3 social workers, so they have plenty of people that they can see if there's any kind of an issue. There is less individual, like adult supervision in junior high with the kids. You get a little more hands-on than you probably do in the high school. So there's building more independence as we go along. Kids should be able to advocate for themselves and come in and question and have conversations about something that they need. We are tending to be more a little on the, not necessarily college, we want to be career prep of some sort. So we do assist with college and career prep of whatever that is, but we do have a career coordinator who is over the entire district. And then they're going to be ones that are sitting at the schools themselves that can help your kids kind of figure out where they want to be in life and to be matched up with maybe somebody they can talk to about their career. Your kids will be earning 6 to 7 credits each year to stay on track for graduation. A passing grade is a D, just so you all know, okay? So every first and second semester, there's a half a credit for each one. You go from August to December with a grade in a class, and then you come back from January to May for a class with a grade, okay? So that whole year, you'll be getting 1 credit for each of whatever classes they're taking, okay? The most major thing that I would like to say too, among the resume building and what we're trying to learn in high school is doing some kind of a club or a sport and being active in school. Doesn't have to be 5 of them, but in order for the kids to understand again who they are and to learn things and to meet people and to build that resume, and if your student is interested in college at any point, colleges look at the things that you were involved in among just the grade. It's not just grades, okay? There is a well-rounded piece that colleges are looking for, and they want to make sure that you have done those things so they know kind of what they're getting as a student for college. Demonstrating community involvement and responsibility. We don't have a requirement for community service, even though I think we probably should, but it's good to put your kids in something that has a community service piece so they kind of think outside of themselves. You know, lending a hand to somebody else and building a resume like that is also very important, especially for things like scholarships, if your children are going to be looking for money for school. Okay. They can earn up to at least 26 credits during high school, even though only 23 and a half are needed to graduate. Earning a 2.5 GPA or higher is the mission, okay? Especially if your student is looking to be college bound. Being a good citizen, trying not to get any suspensions or being put out of school for a reason, and maintaining 95% attendance rate during both junior and senior years, if not before. I don't know why they would just say that, because really attendance is key. If you're not there, you can't learn the materials. It's too difficult. So attendance is very important. Okay, just a piece on how to use your high school counselor. I don't know that sometimes anybody knows what they're doing when they call us, you know, like what we're there for. And we are to be helpful to you. We are to help you navigate the process. And so we do things like personal social counseling. So if they're having a day, if they're having something they need to talk about, that's what we are there for. Academic advising, kind of like what we were talking to you about tonight. That's what we do every year in January. And then we do credit evaluations. We've done some group counseling. We don't do quite as much of that anymore, but we do meet with them in groups a little bit more on the advisory side, like I was talking about earlier, when we go into classrooms and meet with kids and, you know, give them some information about their grade level. And then we also can give them community counseling referrals. We do have an in-house counseling. It's called schoolhouse counseling. So if they weren't seeing us, then we can refer them to their own personal counselor that they can see as well. Then we do, again, post-secondary planning. So anything life after high school, anything trades, career exploration, college and career information that we can give them, scholarships, and we also write letters of recommendation if necessary. Okay, any questions? Any more for that? I'm going to go through a little bit of the need to know. I'm just going to roll through this a little bit, but Allie and Sarah, anything else that you feel like bodes discussing?
I had a few questions in here about connecting to wellness. So just again to clarify, it is a freshman year course. It's a combination of PE and health. So it does last the full school year, and typically it runs about 2 weeks in PE, and then for 2 weeks they go to the classroom and do the health section. And then it keeps alternating every 2 weeks like that for the full school year. And at the end of the year, they've passed both semesters, and they get 1/2 credit goes towards PE and 1/2 credit goes towards health.
And if they're doing ROTC, then they would take the whole year of ROTC and they would move their health requirement to sophomore year, unless they wanted to take the health requirement in an elective spot.
The other thing, I've seen a handful of questions in here about parents stating that they have not received the placement letter. So either a couple of issues, either just haven't gotten it, so they're just not sure what happened, or maybe it went to a different, they've moved or maybe a divorce, or they're not available to get that letter anymore, or for students who are coming from our non-feeder schools and they are wondering how to get that information.
Okay. Well, then
So for those questions, I'm gonna reach out to some people to get answers for that. So I'm working on getting an answer to those on how they do it and how that information gets mailed out.
I'm messaging Catherine because I know she's on here, so I don't know if maybe Catherine, you have some idea of what we can do for that, or do they have to call in?
And then as far as selecting elective classes, when you are in Skyward selecting your course requests, it says my requests, and then there's a tab right next to it that says alternate, and you just click on that tab and then you'll be able to put in those alternates as well.
So I also see some questions about, that we kind of touched on some electives, but maybe they have a child that's interested in other classes. And I think we definitely just highlighted some There's so many classes offered within 218. I would recommend looking at the course selection guide with your student so that you can see everything that's offered. At the beginning of the presentation, I believe it was Julie went over like that sheet that kind of, it was right after the doers and the thinkers sheet that lists all of them. But if you access the course selection guide, which can be found on any of the school websites, you're going to get like a better definition of the classes and all of that. So.
And I can
Okay.
show, once I'm done with these couple of slides, I'll go find the course selection guide for
Yeah.
everybody and show you where that's located.
Okay.
Put that on my notes so we know what that is. Although I wonder, can you guys stick that? Can you copy and paste that into the chat by chance?
I'll try.
Can you? Yeah, maybe that would be, then they can at least go there and look. Okay, I'm going to finish this evening with just a few thoughts that I really want parents to know when you have an incoming freshman, especially if it's your first student in high school. The academic pressures and workload are really different between junior high and high school. And so, again, grades matter. There are increasing demands, and you need to be able to help them balance some of the pressures of trying to get the work done. If they are in extracurriculars in sports, it's going to be an adjustment. They have 7 classes that they need to get through in a 50-minute period of time each day for each class. And that's a lot for kids, especially if they're doing some honors or AP classes coming in. So please understand that there's going to be an adjustment period. So hopefully you have some conversation with your kids and keep the lines of communication open. So if there is a question or if there is some issues, we can tackle those early. Social dynamics are going to be a little bit different as well. They're bringing a lot of things in from the 8th grade with friends. There could be some peer pressure things that you might need to look out for. Maybe they're starting to date. So if you have any questions about those things, then please make sure that you come and have a conversation with us. But things to just look out for and trying to monitor with the kids for sure. Mental health, stress and anxiety is real for these kids, and probably a lot more so than it used to be for some of us. So self-esteem issues, watching to make sure that they are, not secluding themselves and, withdrawing from what they're doing, or, watching who they are and how things change. So just making yourself aware that stress and anxiety in high school could be, I mean, we're at a pretty large building. And sometimes that's a big deal coming from a junior high for these kids and all the things that are going on. It's a lot. So the biggest piece for me and maybe everybody else, I'm not so sure, is we have a lot of issue with these phones and technology and what comes with them. So I would like to just say that if you can monitor some of what your students do with the phone, because a lot of things, navigating social media is really difficult. They're seeing a lot of things that are kind of out there that are making it really difficult for a teen to function sometimes, and self-esteem goes along with that. And, if they're on all these different apps and they're being harassed by students, or there's something going on that we need to be able to talk about, or it's impinging on their education, that's a big deal. So we want to make sure that they're getting enough sleep, that they're eating appropriately, and the phone goes away when they're getting ready to go to sleep, because it interferes with them staying up too late and not getting, falling asleep in class and not getting what they need. Also, independence and responsibility. It is their job coming into high school to advocate for themselves. They need to be able to come talk with us or talk with their teachers about what they need if they need it. So please encourage responsibility for them to come in and have conversations, doing their homework, trying to make sure things are done on time, coming to school on time, household duties, those kinds of things all have to be managed and structured. College and career planning starts early. If you and your student are discussing college at some point, that actually could start freshman year. If you're going on vacation and you can stop and see a college just to get an idea, you can start looking for those things ahead of time. If you know your student has an interest in a particular career or subject, all of those things should not be done senior year. I cannot stress enough how running at the last minute to find a school for your student is not what should be happening. Everything should be starting earlier, much earlier than senior year. And if your student is not college bound, then there are plenty of other options that we can talk about with other kind of vocational training, trade schools, other things that they can do. Even if they did a 2-year degree at Moraine Valley, which is a very viable option and a very inexpensive option, those things, there's other things that they can do if they're not college bound. So, but again, college planning and career planning takes time, and it will go by so fast that if you don't start early, you're going to be running at the last minute. And I'm trying not to have parents do that. So open communication and regular check-ins, kind of the same thing we've talked about already. Just be aware and have conversations with your kids so you know what's happening, and be as supportive as possible with what's happening. Yeah, and I think this kind of says the rest of it too, as far as like, physical health and sleep and things like that, because kids are missing a lot of sleep and then falling asleep in class. So I think that that's, unless anybody else has some thoughts on that, these, again, this will be posted so you can look at some of these things, but they kind of reiterate themselves a little bit. I think I said most of what I need to about what I worry about for incoming freshmen. So
Yeah, and Sherry, you know what? Did we speak about freshman advisory at all?
not freshmen. I did sophomore
Okay.
advisory a little bit. So feel
Sure,
free.
sure. Yeah, so I'll speak to, I mean, I run freshman advisory at Eisenhower, but it's run very similarly at all three buildings. And essentially, so your freshmen, all freshmen through juniors, but all freshmen will have what's called, a homeroom or workroom the first 15 minutes of their lunch period. And so in those workrooms or homerooms, we run a program for a semester called Freshman Advisory. And so there are 2 or 3 upperclassmen mentors that go through training, and they are there with the teacher to kind of cover a wide array of topics from, transitioning to high school initially, like where's my locker, getting tours, all that other like nuts and bolts, who to go for what, help with kind of time management and organization and how to keep up with 7 different classes. They also cover topics on kind of like peer pressure and the social emotional like aspects of transitioning to high school. And so we have mentors and teachers in there kind of covering a little bit of all of that stuff for a semester to kind of really help support their transition to their high school.
Awesome. I'm also trying to I'm trying to look at this. Somebody, Jen, Jen said, Pollock said something. So I'm wondering if there's any people on who are new that need to enroll at 218, you can certainly call the school and we'll need some residency information and grades and test scores. If you are from a partner school but did not get a letter, you can call, I'm hoping this is the assistant principal, and we can check Skyward. Yeah, so I mean, just call the school and we can certainly figure out where you need to be if you did not get the information. I think that's important, that we want to make sure that, call and somebody can help you with it for sure. The registrar, oh, I'm sorry. And let me get back on here for you, because here is the contacts will be posted again when we post this week. So if you want to take a quick picture of this, you can certainly figure out who to call to ask questions if you need to. And then, sorry, I want to make sure I got everything on here. We sent a general placement letter. Oh, but we didn't send an accelerated placement letter. Include any accelerated placements. Oh, okay. All right. I think we have it. Okay. Anything else that we think question wise before we end the evening?
Just to add, I know there are still some questions in there that we're trying to get through. We are so happy to see so many parents here and so many involved parents too, reaching out and having questions. And this year with this presentation is the first year that we're doing it in this platform. So we're working through it as best as we can. So, and unfortunately, some of these questions we might not have the answer to. So we're trying to get answers from other staff members. If we are not able to answer your question tonight, then as it was mentioned, just reaching out to the school, usually questions about technology stuff like logging into Skyward, passwords, navigating the course selection and stuff like that is typically going to be in the tech department.
You can call the parent liaisons too. So if you copy this screen, the parent liaison usually can get you on if you're looking at the technology piece.
Mhm.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Julie.
Yeah. And then questions about academic placements, you can talk to the counselor about it. Or and then questions kind of as far as residency or getting that letter and things like that, the registrar. The other option is just you can call the main number in the main office and they can direct you kind of to the correct person. So it's especially with this new system that we're working with, it is a little bit of a learning curve for us as well. So we appreciate your patience with all of this.
Also, if we're going to look at the curriculum guide that we talked about, where you can find out what classes we offer along with what the descriptions are, if you went to whatever site you belong to, whatever school, and you went to the support services tab and then the counseling link, this is really, I would explore as incoming freshman parents, explore your school's website because we try to put as much on here as possible and we want to make sure that you have the resources to, answer your questions. So if you scroll down then and you go to course selection, which, and first of all, here's all the counselors should be on every page as well. So you can find out who your student's counselor is and get those numbers under the staff link. But if you click on course selection, here's your course selection guide. Okay. Once you click on that, you scroll to the second page. Right here are all the departments and what number it is. Okay. So say you're looking for something in the science department, we'll go 66. Okay. You can put the page number down here, hit return, and it'll automatically go to or close to the next page. Okay. And then it tells you on this sheet what you take freshman, sophomore, and junior and senior year. So it kind of gives you the rundown of the classes. And then it will describe each class for you. Okay. It tells you what kind of class it is, if it's a full year class, who it's offered to, and if there's a prerequisite, which is obviously a class you have to take before you take another class. So you can't take chemistry unless you've taken biology. You can't take foods or I'm sorry, let's go childcare instead. You can't take childcare, like the lab with the kids, until you've taken the childcare semester class. So everything has something before it that you probably need to take. But it basically gives you, this is what you could be going over with your kids as you go along, whether it's this year or the next several years. This is how you know where everything is. Please pass that knowledge along to everybody so they kind of have an understanding of how you can work through this. Because really picking classes with your kids is really important. So, and it happens for all 4 years, and we want to make sure we know what we're doing. And also just like a reiteration really quickly, as we're going along through this, you want to make sure that your children are taking advantage of the things that will also hopefully save money later on. So our dual credit courses we have dual enrollment programs. So if your student wanted to be a nurse, I think we do fire. I can't remember them all, but we do programs at Moraine Valley. We partner with Moraine Valley, and your student can start a program earlier while still in high school if they wanted to. Your student can also get out early senior year and start taking some senior classes if they wanted to. If you build enough dual credit, they could get out of having to take an entire semester of college classes probably because they've taken everything they need to take with us. So utilize an AP classes, same thing. If they took AP classes, a lot of colleges, if you get a 3, 4, or 5 on the test, will actually take those and put them in either as the actual class themselves. So if it was in English, they could use it as an English, or they would use it as an elective. It's less classes your kids have to take in high school, or I'm sorry, in college. So there's a bunch of ways to get through some things. Again, we have a lot of information, and that was probably a lot for you guys for tonight. So this way, at least you know where the curriculum guide is. So that's important. I can't see any of these questions. Oh, I can now. Sorry.
No, Sherry, there's one more question that a couple parents have asked. It's regarding if their student has an IEP. And so obviously they'll get their courses selected in the transition meeting. Do counselors want them to select their requests in prior to that?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Sure. Why don't you guys can still put in, I'm going to say you can still put them in regardless.
Put in the requests.
Yeah, I would just put in the request, and then if it needs to be changed, it needs to be changed.
Yeah. And then students that do have an IEP, they have counselors that work with students specifically. So they're used to the SPED counselors and everything like that. So when you come on the 14th and you meet with your counselor, that'll be a good time to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Looking through
And just one other thing to kind of add, I know some of the questions also that have been coming in the chat, like, can my student take this class and that class, or what about this, or I want to do that. When they adjust the slots so that there's space for more electives, you don't have to worry on whether or not you did it correctly as far as of the 2 full years of electives. We just want to know, what does your student want to take ideally, and we will figure out how to make it work. We'd rather have more options for them than less. And so if you are thinking you want to do, whatever the classes are, and there's 4 or 5 classes you want to take, put them in there, and just so then we have an idea of what you would want to take. So it's better to put additional classes in there of those requests and those alternatives, just to help us with that scheduling. But it's not wrong if you put in 3 full-year classes and there's only space for 2. That's okay. We will figure it out. That is our job. That is our responsibility to take care of that. So as parents, you are there to guide your students, to support them, encourage them. Let us worry about the scheduling part of it. There's just a question, is every Wednesday a late start? Almost every single one is. There's only a handful that are not. And the district calendar that gets sent out has all the dates marked on there as well. And a parent in here had added a comment. Thank you for reminding us that the first day of the school year is a freshman only day. So that is very helpful for the students. On that first day, they get exposed to a ton of information. And they're the only students in the building are just the freshmen. So they get to walk their schedule, learn a lot, do like an activities fair, learn about, what's available for them. So with not having that step up day, this is still an opportunity for them to come into the building and just get exposed to the building first without all of the students in the building. So thank you for that reminder, whichever parent did that. So thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to answer things at the same time.
Yeah, so if you are not able to, if you're having issues getting into Skyward, again, reach out to the tech department, and they should be able to resolve it relatively quickly. If not, after the 14th, that is when the counselor and student would be the ones that would have access to it. If something happens and you still are not able to get that information in, just please reach out to your counselor to address whatever the issue is. And we need that information as best as we can.
Okay. Sorry, I want to just make sure that we're not missing anything in here, especially from the people who are coming from private schools. I'm trying to read through some of those so we know.
Yeah, I think a big part of that seems to be that they haven't received their information, like Skyward information or about course selection. So they need to just reach out to the associate principal in each of the buildings to start that process about enrolling them here in our district. So they may need to do some they will need to do some residency. And then we would need some grades and test scores as far as placement for that. And then for anyone that had asked if you are in one of our feeder schools, but you haven't received that information, you can call the associate principal as well, and they can look into it from on Skyward's end. And so the associate principals at Richard, or at the buildings at Richards, it's Tim Butler. At Shepherd, it is
I'm sorry.
Maurice Irwin.
Maurice Irwin, yep. Sorry.
And at Eisenhower, it is Juanita Lorenz. So those are maybe a good starting point for you as well.
Yeah, I think some of these we're gonna have to. I might just have to try to figure out if we can put some messages on the board for people who are having some of these issues, because that way we can answer multiples. But anybody having an issue, feel free to call, like she said, either call the registrar or call, one of the associates. Just call the main office. We'll get you somewhere. But our numbers are on the website. If you, want to get a counselor, then you can certainly do that as well. or use the link that you would have taken a picture of at the end of this. It has the people you can call. We will get your questions answered. Again, if you can show up even on the 14th, we'll have all the things answered for you there probably by that time as well. So we're kind of in the middle of putting everything out at this point. So if we're all good, anything else, Julie?
I think that's about it. I think we've kind of covered the majority
Yeah.
of the questions. And yeah, if you're not sure who to talk to, just call the main office, or you can call the counseling office main line. And somebody will be able to help you. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming and supporting your kids' education, and welcome to the district. We appreciate your patience with this as we are learning this process as well. We know it is scary and overwhelming, and it is a lot of information that you received tonight. So, like we said, the video will be available for you to go back to reference. There's a lot of information on the incoming freshman website. And obviously your building people are available for you as well. So thank you so much for supporting your students, and we look forward to working with all of you in the future.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Julie.
All right. I think if you do leave webinar, it will end it for everyone. You have to end for all.
You have to end for all. Okay, thanks.
Bye.